Hello, everyone. This is Philip Smith T. Saboide, and welcome to the GRITS podcast. Running about 30 seconds late, but I'm here. Hopefully, everybody's doing okay tonight. Wanted to thank everybody for our first two podcasts, and this is our third one. We're getting better and better, getting a little more sophisticated with the process. But tonight, we're going to have a little fun. Before I forget, please like and subscribe to the station. That'll help build the brand, build the conversation, hopefully build the community that we're trying to build here on the GRITS podcast. We talk about any and everything, and nothing is off limits. We can be passionate about our conversations. We can even yell a little bit, but one thing we have to be is civil to one another and respect each other as folks, particularly Black folks that are on the podcast. Tonight, I have a really hopefully interesting discussion that is on Black women and Black men, and more importantly, why is there such a shortage of Black men currently that are eligible for marriage for Black women? It appears that there is a ongoing, and I mean ongoing, conversation with our community that there's just not enough good men eligible for our Black women. And before I get 1,000 emails, I want to make sure that I tell everyone I am the chief feminist, not only in my own house, but I try to be very proactive in supporting Black women all the time. And I see their pain that they're going through in a lot of instances because I know a lot of Black women. So tonight we're going to have a brief conversation regarding that, and definitely jump on in if you are listening to us for the first time. Now, again, as I said, like and subscribe. And the topic, where are the all eligible Black men? I'm gonna go down some brief stats. So take your shoes off, grab a glass of wine, and hopefully you can get a good bit of information tonight, and definitely participate if you have the need and want to do that. Let's look at some stats here. I'm going to look at my little cheat sheet and run it down here. Statistically, 88 to 91 black men to 100 black women. There was still a shortage of about 9 black men to every 100 black women. So if you have 100 black women that are eligible, only 91 men would be available. That still leaves a shortage of 9 black women not being able to get married. 40% to 42% of all black women are not married as of right now. And that's alarming, not because it's the only community that's going through that. Other women are going through that as well, but we need to change that dynamic and have our women be able to find a suitable partner for this generation and generations to come. Because if they can't find someone to marry, we cannot produce children. We cannot continue our community. And after a while, folks, we won't be here, and every other community is going to be here because they are producing children in large amounts, 4, 5, 6 kids per family nationwide. This is a quote. I don't know if it's necessarily true, but I think it has a lot of truth in the element of it. If every black man in America married a black woman today, 1 out of 12 black women still wouldn't make it down the aisle if they hoped to marry a black man. 70% of professional black women with BAs, MDs, and JDs, in other words, Juris Doctorates, lawyers, are still without the more elusive title of MRS, in other words, being married. And I want to stop on this point for a moment. It is really proven that the higher an education a black woman has, the more difficulty she has in securing a mate. I'm not saying that is always the case, but a lot of the black women that I know that are doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects, psychiatrists, urban planners, PhD professors have had a difficult time in finding a mate to marry. That doesn't mean they don't find that mate eventually, but they definitely have to be very, very diligent on sifting through all the obstacles that black women have to go through to find a man. And I want to make sure this is known. Black women are not alone in this difficulty, this challenge, this obstacle that they're facing. White women, Asian women, Latino women are also facing the same challenges in a lot of cases. Women generally, as it is here in the United States, are having a much more difficult time in finding a mate. Why is that? Let's look at the reasons. And this is very unscientific, but this is what I believe. 1, higher education, more employment opportunities. Women aren't running to the aisle to get married. They are looking at their options. Why do I have to get married at 22, 23 when I can go get my degree, travel the world, build my own financial portfolio and career portfolio? Then only when I'm ready and settled can I then start securing someone to find as a mate. That is, to me, one of the obvious things that are taking place. 2, and this is more specific to black women, a lot of black men are incarcerated. I hate to say that, but that is very, very true. Some folks, even in my family, that have been in jail for quite some time. And that has taken them out of the marketplace, so to speak, to even have an attempt to find and secure a mate. So those are 2 main issues that women, and specifically black women, have to deal with. It isn't a solely black woman problem, because I hear Latino women, I hear Asian women, as well as white women saying it is very difficult to date now. It's difficult to find someone who is willing to settle down and be serious about building a life together, man and woman together. So there are some challenges here. Let's look at the first one, incarceration. A lot of our men, unfortunately, due to lack of family support structure, lack of a black man in the family, the list goes on and on, has caused a lot of our men to go astray. And that causes them to get involved with gangs, drugs, hanging out, getting in altercations with the police. And before you know it, a lot of our young men, and these are brilliant, smart young men, I want to make sure that is clear. They are really good individuals for the most part, but they're just put in situations where they are doomed to fail for lack of leadership from the home. And I'm not here to knock any women that say, hey, a woman can't raise a boy. A woman can raise a young man, but preferably men or young men need a man in their house to direct them, to teach them how to be a man, to answer questions that only a male can answer when asked by a young boy about how should I shave, or what does this jock strap really do? What about girls, Dad? Um, I kissed a girl, I touched her, she touched me, it felt great, it felt funny. You need a man to talk to another young man about those experiences. And that's really important. And again, ladies, I don't want to say a woman cannot do that. I know lots of Black women that went ahead and stood up and stood tall and produced some really great young men. But I also know a lot more, and I mean a lot more, that it just didn't work out well. The boys have issues of not having a father. They just don't get it in terms of how to treat a woman. They are really thuggish in their perspective of women in general and how to treat them or not treat them, because a man wasn't there to instruct them on how to treat a lady, how to hold her hand, how to talk to her, respect and appreciate the woman that you're trying to pursue, how to dress, shower, shave, just basic tenets that a lot of us older folks, and I'm an old fart at 64, did coming up. But a lot of this younger generation, the millennials now, a lot of our men don't have that. So that's a very troubling reality that we have to face. And I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy in the crowd talking tonight. But I do believe it's something that we can address, and I think we can fix it. But we have to be creative, like we always have been as a people, and solve these issues for our women. On a personal level, I have a daughter. She is 22. She's at the age where she's excited, she's happy. She's out on her own. She wants to experience life, and yes, she wants to date eligible men. Now, do I want to think about her kissing and making love to another man? No, I do not, on any level, and I mean any level. But I also have to be realistic that she is pursuing someone that she wants to be with for the rest of her life, and in that process, things are going to happen. Making love is one of those things. Babies are another. Responsibilities, and she wants to be able to experience that. She wants to have that. I've seen that in her eyes. I've talked to her briefly about it, and she's frustrated a lot of times. She says, "Dad, I'm out here trying to, meet good, solid men when we go to a social gathering or we go to a nightclub or this just being introduced to folks, and there's just a lack of Black men for her." And I feel for her because she's my daughter, and I also feel for other Black women because they represent my daughter. So I'm very, very aware of those issues that are out there. So I think we need to be a little more diligent and understanding the situations that are out there and how we can address that and make it more viable for our young women to find love, for lack of a better phrase or term. And I guess in the olden days, in some cultures, they had arranged marriages where the family of one male and the family of another female, they get together and they would talk about it years before it even happened, saying, "Hey, I think your daughter is a good girl, and I think your boy is a good son, and I think those two make a good couple in the future. So let's plan that." I know that's frowned upon here in the U.S., but it might come to that, or start having to come to plan these weddings out well in advance, so our women can get some type of connection with the man. And in addition to that, I don't sit here and harp on the negatives of what we don't have as a people and what's not taking place, in our community. So let's look at some solutions. One of the solutions I think a lot of women need to do is start looking at older men. Okay, I get it. A lot of these young women are like, "Hey, Philip, you're old man. What are you trying to say?" I'm not trying to say anything. I'm a happily married man, but I'm saying if you're 22, 23, 24, and you're mature, is it possible to date someone who's 30, 6 years older than you? 7 years older than you, 8 years older than you? Is that a bad thing? Is that out of your comfort level as a woman? If you're keeping your lines of opportunities strictly within, let's say, if I'm 22 and I'm a woman, I'm only going to date guys that are 25 at the most, 3 years older than me. But there might be a really good guy out there who's 27, 28, 29. He's maturity wise right about where you're at, because women are a little more mature than men. And he might be a little immature for his age at 29. So you guys might meet in the middle. It might be a good match. You never know. I mean, my wife was significantly younger than myself, and we've been together 20 years. So the things work out. Now, having said that, the older men option, let's look at another potential option. And, recently my wife and I went to Tanzania and visited Africa. The first thing we noticed when we got off the plane and we're going through the airport and driving through the city, the thousands and thousands, if not millions of couples that we saw who were Black, happy, loving each other. And I just think if Black women get a chance to entertain this opportunity of possibly going overseas to Africa, or specific countries in Africa, Ghana, Tanzania, Uganda, where there's a level of Americanization and there's a comfort level with Western culture where you could connect with that person instantly and language is not a barrier, you can find somebody, I believe. It's one thing to say, we're from different countries, but if in saying that you guys are both have the same interests, if you both have the same kinds of personalities, even though you come from different cultures, I think you can overcome those possible cultural issues and have some really common themes. You both like science, or you both like sports, you both like to lift weights, or you both like to jog, you both like to go to church. There's always some areas where you can find commonality and connection with someone. And I think that really needs to be looked at for a lot of our Black women in this country right now, because there are millions and millions of Black men on the continent of Africa that would love a beautiful, dark-skinned, chocolate sister from America and would be faithful forever, if they were allowed to meet her and possibly engage in a possible relationship and even marriage. It's something we have to think out the box. We can't keep thinking about the same thing the same way and expect a different outcome. My father was always famously said, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different outcome. It's not going to happen. Trust me, it's not going to happen. We have to start being intuitive and say, okay, we're here where we are right now, but where we want to be in the future. Well, if I'm a single Black woman and I'm seeing the difficulties that the women of this generation are having, not the women of the 70s and 80s where they had possible opportunities, they were a lot better. I'm talking about 2022, 2023, 2024 time right now. And I'm seeing the challenges that other Black women are having. I'm definitely going to look at other countries, and specifically, I'm going to start with Africa, because I believe you can find some good men over there that will work hard, be great fathers, be great husbands, and be supportive towards you. Are there some cultural challenges? Yeah, there is. But with conversation and desire, you can overcome anything. I know not quite a few. I know 3 couples that are, the husband is from Africa. The woman is an African American woman here in the U.S., and they're doing just fine. They have kids. They do everything everyone else does, and they have a very successful marriages between the 3 of them. I'm just saying it's something that should be thought about. It's not for everybody. If you're looking for someone who's an African American, who had an African American experience, African American culture, you want someone who's went to maybe HBCU, they had a fraternity, or they play football or baseball coming up. They have a definite turn or preference to an American style way of thinking, then looking overseas is not something that would be viable. And that includes if you're looking at South America, where you have some really um, beautiful countries where a lot of highly melanated Black men are in Panama, they're in Colombia, um, that would really appreciate a very beautiful Black woman. So those are some of the things that are out there in terms of travel or looking overseas for some of the Black women that are here. Um, the last one, we've heard this for years. We've seen it more and more commercials. We're seeing it every day here, even in Atlanta, which is considered the mecca of Black activity, Black life. We're seeing more and more Black women dating outside of their race. They said, "Hey, you know what? I've waited. I looked at the watch. Um, Mr. Black didn't come down, so I'm gonna look at Mr. Whoever from another race, and if they get along and we click and we can make a life together and we love each other, we're gonna marry each other and we're gonna have a great life, and that's the end of it. And we're not gonna look back." I see more and more Black women starting to do that. I think our women have been incredibly loyal, more loyal than any other group of women that I know toward their men. They have really tried to stay steadfast on looking at Black men as the goal. I'm not going to settle for anything other than a Black man. I'm gonna wait. I gotta wait 10 years. I'm gonna wait. And if I'm 30 or 35 and he comes around, it's gonna be worth the wait. And a lot of those women are now saying, you know what? I've waited 10 years. I waited 15 years. So I am going to entertain looking at someone outside of my community who's a good man, first and foremost. They love and appreciate Black women, secondly, as well as our culture, and would make good mates, make good fathers, make good income producing men for those Black women. And for that, I'm not mad at you. I get it. I get it. Life, you don't have a repeat in life. You have one time around, and you have to do the best job that you can possibly do with what you are given in terms of the reality. If the reality is that you are unable to find a suitable Black man as a mate, then you should look at every possible opportunity, and that includes looking at men outside of your race, white, Asian, or Latino, that are open to dating Black women and love Black women. And there are a lot out there, particularly with the way our cultures are really starting to mix and intermix and intermarry. Um, it's a very, very good feeling when we see our folks doing that. So, I mean, our Black women doing that. So that might be an opportunity that gives a third option for Black women. And I don't just want to be the old man in the corner talking. I know that there's a great deal of folks that want to find love. You know, there's nothing worse than seeing a woman or a man, for that matter, that has been unable to find someone to be a suitable mate. Because we are, let's face it, God has made us to be social animals. We like talking, for the most part, to other people. We like being around people for the most part. So for us to be alone is not a natural state of being for human beings. We like going to parties. We like going to the movies. We like having family over. We like being with our family at home, our wives, our kids, our husbands. I mean, though that's a natural desire, that's a natural phenomena that is drilled into our DNA. And when we don't get that balance, because everyone needs to have balance, not only financial balance, but you need to have spiritual balance. You need to have emotional balance. You need to have a sexual balance, because we are sexual creatures. We like having sex with people that we love, and we are we are attracted to, and that's part of being married. And when you don't get that, it is really, really troubling to see somebody in that state that's went through that process and is going through that process for a number of years because they have not been able to find someone. So I'm just, at this point, I want to support our women. I want to talk about it, make a discussion open and honest. And I'll be honest, there's some anger by a lot of Black women toward Black men, because a lot of Black women are now dating outside of their race, and they're pursuing white, Latino, and Asian women because they have options too. The world is very, very diverse. And a lot of Black women that I've spoken to are like, hey, wait a minute, wait a minute. We need black men over here. Come over here first, get all of us, straight. And then the extra guys, they can go ahead and um, do whatever they want to do. But not enough black men are doing that, and it seems like more and more folks in our community are looking at that option to date outside of their community who are black men. And again, I'm not here to hate on anybody or cause any friction. I'm here to provide solutions and discussion. But a lot of our folks are needing, um, they need someone. Quite frankly, they need someone. So that was my thoughts tonight. Only gonna go about 30 minutes tonight. I just want to make sure that we had a good conversation. I got a couple of emails. A couple of comments. Why? Let me see what's it saying here. Why is it so prevalent with our younger generation? Well, I'll say this, and thank you, whoever you are. I think it's more pronounced now in our younger generation because everything is heightened. The reality is that black women of this generation have many more obstacles to deal with than the obstacles I think of our generation. It was very, very. I'm not going to say the word innocent coming up because it was an innocent time, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but it was a time that was you understood things. You got to a certain point, you got married, you have kids, you don't get divorced. Divorce is something you don't even talk about. The D word is never even talked about. Everybody, when you get married, you stay married. But now the world's changed. You can get married and get a divorce in the same week, and it's nobody even winks or even looks twice at you. There are certain challenges financially that people have to consider when you're getting married. I mean, you don't want to marry someone that is a financial wreck. Their student loans are in default. They have bad credit in the 400s. They don't have a job. They're illiterate. They're abusive. They drink. I mean, this is the worst nightmare working. Nobody wants a mate like that. Nobody. And I certainly don't want that for my daughter. And as a father who's hopefully going to see her find somebody that's a good fit. So that's about it for my thoughts tonight. And I want to appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. Next week, we'll have a really full roster. And as always, God bless, be safe. And I'll see everyone next week. And thank you for listening to the GRITS podcast. Thank you. Have a good night, and everyone take it easy.